भगवान श्री योगी रामसूरतकुमार की सर्वं योगी रामसूरतकुमारार्पणमस्तु। Today, once again, we got this opportunity, a fortune, I should say, to sing the divine name, the divine, vibrant presence of Bhagwan. And today is an auspicious day, the day Papa Ramdas took sannyas. It's celebrated as a sannyas day in Ananda Ashram. December 27th. Somehow it became very significant for me also, because it was this day in 1986 that I had the huge fortune of landing at the feet of Bhagwan. It was only this evening, about 5:30, that I stood before his house for the very first time. It was the first time for me, but Guru looks after us all through our journey of life after life after life. It's not just one life, but it is life after life after life, so many lives. He travels with us all through the journey of evolution. Though we think the day we meet, we land at the lotus feet of our Gurudev, it's the first time that we see him in truth, right from the point, right from the beginning of our evolution. We travel with the Guru. Rather, the Guru travels with us. He journeys with us through our entire evolution to perfection. It all started on a day when I was studying for my MPhil examination with a fellow student of my class in Presidency College, Chennai. By then I had fallen at the feet of many Mahatmas of different traditions. I'd gone up to the Himalayas and met truly different varieties of tradition. India abounds in it. All kinds of people, Mahatmas, the great souls from different traditions. And many of them do not come amidst the people. They stay away in some corner, unknown to people, and continue their service to the world. By then I had met many people because I was attached to Ramakrishna Math, taken Diksha from Swami Vireshwarananda already. But suddenly, this friend with whom I was studying, she looked up at me and then said, "I saw your horoscope yesterday. Now very soon you are going to meet somebody, and thereafter your life would change completely." I simply laughed, unable to believe her. Had I not met Mahatmas and Mahatmas, how many of them I had fallen at their feet and taken blessings from them? Each one I had met with a great Mahatma in his own right. But he did not make any deep impression in me. Nobody took over. I've always been left with more longing. So I just laughed it off, saying that, okay, one more Mahatma, what does it matter? But 3 months after that, at the time, I was also reading a lot of Ramana literature and was completely drawn to Sri Ramana's personality and teachings. Sri Ramana, no matter how quiet and silent, in that perfect silence, he simply storms into anybody's soul. He simply takes over. Such is the glory of Sri Ramana. Such is the glory of his teachings. I was completely drawn to him, and it was to see him that I came to Thiruvanamalai. By then, a student of mine, a physics student of mine in Sharda College, had already seen Yogi Ramsuratkumar Bhagwan, and she described to me how unique he was. That made an impression, definitely, but then I was far into the personality of Ramana and his teachings. It just didn't matter to me in a very special way. When we landed, I took 2 fellow teachers, one of them had already met Bhagwan Yogi Ramsuratkumar. So when the 3 of us landed right outside Ramana Ashram at about 7:30, it was very dark everywhere. There used to be one dim light, a little away from Ramana Ashram, but at that time even that was off. There was no light, no electricity anywhere. And the whole place was plunged in darkness. So you can imagine the impression. Just when I was landing right outside at Ramana Ashram, I saw only darkness, a sea of darkness everywhere. But Ramana was bright inside, and I ran my way to the meditation hall. I was already crying because it was dark everywhere. So when I stood there before Ramana's picture in the meditation hall, there was a small mud lamp burning. I burst out crying. I looked at Ramana's face, the compassionate face, and pleaded. I said, Ramana, you are the son of knowledge, the son of supreme knowledge. But even here, there's only darkness for me. Will there be no light at all in my life? And I burst out. But suddenly, something happened. No imagination of mine for sure. The two eyes, the compassionate eyes of Bhagwan Ramana began to glow with life. And the gaze Ramana. Bhagwan Ramana's gaze fell upon me straight, and I was directly looking. I was standing there right in front of him, looking into his eyes. Eyes that were alive and glowing and full of compassion and love, grace. It was probably only for a fraction of a second, and then the lights came on. It was once again Ramana's photograph. But then something had happened. In that fraction of a second, when I burst out crying, they were the cries of a soul, a naked soul in front of the supreme knowledge. The naked soul enveloped by darkness all around, the darkness of ignorance, calling out to the Son of Knowledge. I had my answer from him, felt very reassured, and was filled with happiness. After that, the next day, morning, as was the custom, the three of us, started to go round the mountain. When we came to the town, my friend told me, this is where Yogi Ramsuratkumar resides. She pointed to the Sanadi Street house. Immediately, I felt a compulsion inside to have his darshan. So I said, okay, let's go have his darshan. We bought 2 coconuts, tender coconuts, and promptly stood before his house, only to be faced with a locked gate. Then we didn't know what to do. And there was somebody there up there in the chariot mandap. He came running down and said, Swami just left for the temple, just now, a few minutes before, he left for the temple. So we immediately rushed there to the temple, and then looked everywhere, here and there, only to be told by those people there that he had just left the temple. Bad luck. Anyway, we decided, okay, we would try in the evening, and then we finished our round, our circumambulation of the mountain. And again in the evening we started. Now this time, my desire to see him, to have his darshan, has gained momentum. So again, now this time, evening, we didn't go around the mountain, we came straight and bought again 2 coconut, tender coconut. The morning, whatever we bought, we drank ourselves. And again the evening, we got through and stood before Bhagwan's residence, Sannadhi Street house. And again it was locked to door. And it was the same Leela. The gate boy who was there, up there, he came and said, only now he left for the temple. Taken aback, again we ran our way to the temple, ransacked the whole temple, only to find again and be told by somebody there he had just left. Okay, it doesn't matter, there were 2 more days. So the next day morning again we started our round, the Giri Pradakshina. And when we came to the town, again we bought 2 tender coconuts. And then, now come to think of it, I can't understand why we bought tender coconut. It was December, must have been very cold. But somebody said he liked the tender coconut water. So again we were there. There we were with 2 tender coconuts. Only the locked gate welcomed us. And of course, the boy did not fail to say again, he had just left. So we rushed once again to the temple, looked here and there, only to be told again that he had just left. So you see, this Leela repeated itself. In the evening also, it was bad luck all the way. And every time we ended up drinking the coconut water ourselves. But I was not going to give up easily. They called me sometimes the go-getter. I had to go get what I wanted. So here again, now this time the 3rd day morning, they were a little reluctant to accompany me, but then I forced them. Anyway, we were also going down the mountain, so they came. And again the same, took tender coconut, and the same locked gate, and the same ransacking inside the temple, and completing the round. Now 5 times the same Leela was repeated, but there was one thing about the whole Leela. The more and more difficult he was to reach out, the more and more passionate I became to see him. The longing, at some point, the longing to see him started. And this longing began to shake me. It was deep and consuming. It began to glow like fire. By the time the 3rd day evening arrived, I was no more myself. Our only focus was Yogi Ramsuratkumar. I had to see him. There was no other go. I just could not take no. So again, I pulled them out. The 3 of us went there. And this time they were fed up with coconut water. They said, look, 5 times we had taken something as offering and ended up drinking it ourselves. So no more buying any offering. I said, okay. I would buy something, and this time I bought 4 apples and was praying. By then, my longing became intense. It had become intense, and then we turned the lane, the street, and there we saw a crowd just outside the residence, and to our delight, great delight, he was inside. The crowd was waiting for his darshan. So we assumed, and there was no lock on the gate. For the first time, we saw the gate without any lock. And then we were there last to join. And by then, we can imagine there were palpitations. My heart was beating fast. And there was something in the whole body, some kind of vibration. And I was looking until the eyes ached. And suddenly, the wooden door opened, a figure walked out. I could see some colors, but that's all I saw. He came. He opened the gate and draped himself across the threshold. I hardly saw him. By then, the vibrations in the body were intense. Something was happening to me fast. It's like we remembered yesterday how Shri Perumal Rajvaya, when he neared the hundi, the collection box, how he was taken over by the vibration suddenly, and how the whole vibration increased in intensity to form into a word, Nenuda. Something very similar was happening to me also. And he was there, just a little distance away from me. And he was blessing people. He said Ram Ram and patted on the back of somebody and dismissed them. And then sometimes it was, my father blesses you. Sometimes it was just a pat on the back. Something, and then very quickly the crowd dispersed. And finally only the 3 of us were left. And my friend was nudging me saying, look, now any moment he'll ask us to go out. Let's be prepared. She was whispering it to me. But here I was looking at him, gaping at him, and I did not realize the tears were streaming down. I was totally out of my mind. I just looked at him, and something was happening very fast in me. The deep longing I had felt for his darshan in those 3 days, the treatment that he had given me, prepared my mind for his darshan. Was working so fast, and I just looked up at him with wide-eyed wonder, with streaming tears and trembling body. You can imagine, he just looked at the 3 of us and then moved a little inside the veranda and gestured to us to come in. So we rushed inside, and my trembling was even more now, so much so that I dropped all the apples and they were rolling down in different directions. He shouted. He said, pick them up. So very clumsily I began to collect them. All the time my hands were trembling because of his close presence. The veranda was very small. And then we prostrated before him. We were very sure that we were going to come out any moment. But surprisingly, he opened the wooden door, went inside saying, "Follow me." So that was his first instruction to me, "Follow me." So we went inside, and again, there was another shock waiting for me. I saw things were all scattered. There was no order at all. There was dust on the floor. The mats that had been spread out, probably for the sake of the visitors, they had more holes than the mat. And the little mat here and there left out, there was only dust. There was a heap of bottles of different sizes and shapes in one place. The newspaper scattered in another corner. Some books were left here and there. Not to mention the cigarette boxes, a heap of them in one place, and a heap of matchboxes in another place, and a mud pot. I had a quick fill of my eyes. And then, to top it all, there were 17 photographs. I counted later. There were many, many photographs of Bhagwan, the same pose. And all the photos, all the frames looked alike. And they were hung on the wall next to each other. So many of them. I'd never seen any Mahatma. I had seen Mahatmas and Mahatmas by then. Never seen any Mahatma with his photos hanging, decorating the wall like that. Everything seemed very strange and shocking. But above all, his appearance. Because inside I came closer to have a look. And I saw colored shawls torn here and there and hanging. And the dirty dhoti and the dirty shawl, dirty kurta, a very carelessly thrown turban, the unkempt hair. And then when I came to his eyes, it was a completely different story. The eyes were shining, and light was pouring out of it. His face was red and radiant. When I entered, I saw one chair, one cane chair. It looked very old and wobbly. There was a passing thought, how could anybody sit in this? And then, of course, he took us there. There were already 3 people inside. And there was another compartment after that. So he made us sit in a row. He went straight to that chair and brought it and put it right in front of me and sat there like an emperor would sit on the throne. What majesty! He was wearing all dirty clothes, torn, dirty rags, and a carelessly thrown turban which sat there like a diadem. And here, this world emperor was seated on his throne with such divine majesty. I just couldn't believe what I saw. There was such beauty and majesty. So I was looking, I was gaping at him all the time. And then he asked us quickly our names. And then he looked straight into my eyes and asked me, "What do you want?" At that time, I was preparing for my MPhil examinations and I was already applying to universities for my PhD. And I wanted to take it up. I wanted to go to one of the best laboratories of the world where I could work and do research. That was my ambition. So I was preparing for that. That should have been on the top of the mind, but it wasn't. When he asked me, what do you want? Without knowing, without any preparation of mind, spontaneously came the words, I want to see God. He looked at me, he could not, as though there was such a disbelief on his face. He was a master actor. There was such disbelief on his face, the countenance. He looked at me, what? You want to see God? Oh God. And then he began to laugh. He put his hand on his head and laughed. And he laughed and laughed and laughed. I don't know, it was like eternity. He was laughing so much. It was a thunderous laughter. And what was more, he was slapping his thigh and laughing. And sometimes he would call out to people there, the next three people, one after the other, do you know what she wants? She wants to see God. Oh God. And then he would put his hand on his head and again laugh. As though it was a joke. It must have been a joke to him, coming from me, a very poor, lowly soul. But it hurt me so much that he should laugh. As though I had committed a blunder. I felt maybe I didn't have the qualification even to say such a thing. What a lowly soul I must have been. And the thought hit me with a certain force. I could not help. Already the tears were streaming down for no reason at all. And now this added to it, and I started to sob. But he went on with his Leela, saying that, oh, how can this beggar help you? This beggar has not seen God. This beggar has not seen God. How can he help you? And then he would laugh, oh God, she wants to see God. How can this beggar help her? And then he would slap his thigh and go into peals of thunderous laughter. So this was repeating itself. When he was laughing more and more, I was sinking so low inside and I was crying more and more. At one point, the sob came out a little more loudly, and then his face softened. He said, oh, this beggar has not seen God, but Devaki may see God. Devaki is a pure soul. She may see God. But this beggar has not seen God. How can he help her? And then again the laughter started. But suddenly my fellow teacher who was with me, she had already met him. She was familiar with his ways, and she turned up spontaneously. She uttered something which I could never have imagined myself. She said, Swami, we do not know whether we are pure or impure. But now that you have said it, we have become pure from this moment. And the way she said it, with such inspiration, Swami's expression changed dramatically. He stopped his laughter He looked at my face, and then suddenly with a hunkar, and then he raised his hand in gesture of blessing and looked straight into my eyes, into the very depths of my soul. I had no idea what happened to me. I just saw him, and I saw the light in his eyes. The eyes were glowing, full of compassion. And they were the same eyes that I saw in Ramana's picture the previous day. I'm telling you, the same eyes. The two eyes that I saw in Ramana's picture were the eyes of Yogi Ramsuratkumar. They were the same. They have to be the same because it's the same truth living inside both the forms. Again, I was completely taken over. I continued to stare at him, shocked, beyond my control. And suddenly something happened. All thoughts left me. And slowly, a very deep, deep peace began to fill up every pore of my being. And I had no idea. Everything dropped out. There was only one thought I could remember later on, and that was that if there is God, He's sitting here in front of me. If there is a God with form, it's He in front of me. That was the only thought that came to my mind at that time. And that's how I could remember it. Otherwise, it was complete peace and bliss. And I had no idea when I stopped sobbing. And I was still looking at him, the brilliant being, out of this world. And then, as suddenly he brought his hand down and started to laugh. He just took over, right? From the point he left, just like that. He could change his expressions so fast and so completely, so mercurial. Minute to minute to minute, his expressions would change so quickly, and every expression would be perfect, complete in itself. What a being! Though I had been with many, many Mahatmas, great ones, this was a totally different experience for me, one I had not prepared myself for. It just stormed into me, and after that, again he started saying, "Oh, this beggar has not seen God. How could he help the lady here? Ganesha," I think one of them was Sri Jnanagiri Ganeshan of Shivakasi. He called him, "Ganesha, how can this beggar help her? This beggar has not seen God." He had already filled me up. And he was saying, so those gimmicks, at least I thought so, did not have any effect upon me because I was already full with the peace that he gave me. I was drunk. And then quickly he went to the heap of the bottles there and then picked out one, came straight to us and gestured to us to stand up. So when he opened the bottle, all the three of us stretched our hands with great expectation. He took out one small sugar candy. He looked at all the three of us with extended hands, and then he put it into his own mouth and laughed. We felt very stupid. He laughed again so much. And then again he put his 2 fingers inside to pull out one more. And this time we were wise. We kept our hands down. We kept a straight face and put our hands down and looked up without any expectation. Again he smiled and then looked at me and gestured to me to extend my hand. I did, still very doubtful, but this time he put the sugar candy into my hand and gestured to me, take it inside, put it into your mouth. So immediately I put it into my mouth. Now the 2 friends of mine on either side, they became alert. And then they also extended their hands. He looked at them, smiled once again very kindly, and then said, no. And then he closed it, took it again to the heap there, and then turned around and said, now this beggar is going to leave you all. Very businesslike. This business is over. So he started to walk in the front and we followed him. And just when we were leaving, when he had gone to put the bottle back, I saw all those photos. Suddenly I felt a pang of longing for one of those photos. So I whispered to my friend, and my friend said, no, what are you saying? He has given us so much already, and any moment, the minute you start talking, he'll ask you to get out. Keep quiet, she said. So I kept quiet, and then we followed him. When he was about to cross the threshold, suddenly he swirled. There was a stack of papers. He pulled out one, looked at me, and then showed it to me. He asked me, do you know this beggar's name? I said, Ramsurat Maharaj, because I was quite used to calling the Swamiji there in Ramakrishna Math Maharaj. So I said, Ramsurat Maharaj. He said, no, you do not know this beggar's name. And then he asked me to read what was written under. It was the picture, same picture that I so much wanted. And there was something written down there. He asked me to read. Then I read it as H. Yogi Ramsuratkumar. He said, no, you read the name alone. So Yogi Ramsuratkumar. Read it again. Yogi Ramsuratkumar. Read it again. Yogi Ramsuratkumar. Now, you can keep this. I understood that it was a Diksha. He made me repeat the name after him 3 times. And he gave me his form also. So the name and form came to my hand. And then in few seconds everything was over. He came straight and he opened the gate and let us out. And then he very firmly closed so that we wouldn't come back. We wouldn't be tempted to come back. The message was loud and clear that his business with us was over. In any case, I was so drunk with that peace and bliss. I was in a daze. So I just walked about like a zombie. It lasted the whole night. And the next day morning something happened. When I was standing there at the bus stop opposite to Ramanashram, there was one dim light glowing somewhere, throwing very little light around. And this temple, the Dakshinamurti temple, next to Ramanashram, in those days it was dilapidated. The murti there was broken and it was very dark inside, and they used to say even thieves would take rest there. Thieves would hide themselves there. There used to be only beggars and thieves. People would be afraid to cross that in the nights. It was early morning, 5 o'clock, And suddenly a figure came out of the Dakshinamurti temple, the darkness. It was like a cave, out of which a figure came out, and it came running, and running with such speed. I saw disheveled hair, a very dark-skinned figure, and there was only a loincloth, the waist. And he came charging towards us. The two friends of mine who were with me, they immediately ran inside the tea stall, hid themselves. I would have done it also normally. I would have been scared so much. I would have run away from the place. But that day, I was still drunk with all that peace, and there were no thoughts in me. I was only a witness, and everything became a detail. The mind registered the detail, but there was no reaction. I'm telling you the truth, every bit of it. I saw this man charging towards me, and I just stood there, transfixed, rooted to the spot. There was no reaction. There was no reaction. It was once again an observation. And suddenly this man came just 4 feet away. He stopped, and then he ran round me, ran back into the darkness of this cave at that time, the Dakshinamurti temple. It was once again a strange thing that happened. The man, why should he come charging towards me? Why should he stop 4 feet away? And why should he go around me? But they were only details at the time. I just registered them. I mean, they were registered automatically, spontaneously. And after that, the effect was there for nearly a week or 10 days. I don't remember. The one that went inside Bhagwan's abode, Yogi Ramsuratkumar's abode in Sanat Street House, and the one that came out were two totally different beings. Such is the fire of truth that Yogi Ramsuratkumar was and is. He burnt me down, consumed me. A few seconds. Now during that trip, something else also happened, something very significant. This man, when he came from Dakshinamurti temple, much later when I thought about it, it looked to me that Thiruvanamalai had done. Maybe this Kalabhairava of the place. This is how I imagined. The Kalabhairava, in any Shiva Kshetram, Kalabhairava would be there. And probably it was he who came round. And it looked as though Thiruvanamalai had tied me up to that place. Now during this trip, the previous day, there was one Tyagaraja Swami, a sadhak, attached to Sri Ramana Bhagwan. A sadhak at that time, used to wear white clothes. He was well known to my friend Baby, and so it was he who took us to Pavalakundu, the little hill up there, part of Arunachaleshwara mountain. And when we reached there, he told me This is the place where Parvati did tapas and made Lord Shiva Ardhanarishvara. Lord Shiva accepted her tapas, and in the culmination of that, he took her, he gave half of his body to her. And then he added, this place, this Thiruvanamalai is a place blessed by Parvati Devi, and she has given one blessing particularly for the women who do tapas here in the Kshetra. Will find fulfillment. This is what he said. Will find fulfillment. So this stayed with me. Now Tyagaraja Swami is Swami Hamsananda of Atithya Ashram. I'm grateful to him. I'm very, very grateful to him for taking me there the very first time and introducing me to Parvati's tapas. And his assurance that the women who take up tapas here will find fulfillment soon. That is a special praise from Parvati Devi. Now this Bhagwan, who can give such an experience within minutes, is here right in front of me with a smile. Though he doesn't show, his smile doesn't show in the Facebook. When you go near, you will see the Mandahasam, they say. Such beautiful smile on his face. And today we shall submit our prayers to him. At this point I remember something when Sri Krishna Premi Anna had come to the ashram 2 years back. When he gave a speech here on the dais outside, he said, you people have come to the Guru. Once you find your way to the Guru, everything is over. The rest of your path is left to him, and he would complete it. Coming to the Guru will do. The rest will be seen by the Guru. Now he is here. We shall submit our prayers today. Bhagwan, please free the entire world from the clutches of this dreadful virus and its variant, and bring back normalcy in every aspect of life. Please remove the panic from the hearts of people and arrest the spread of the disease. And all those brave soldiers who are in the field fighting the disease, please give them protection and enter the vaccine. Make it potent to kill this virus instantly.